versed it. And then we tried the first wort hopping. It was the first time we've done that. So I was a little unclear as to what kind of IBUs would be contributed by first wort hopping.
That is tough. The software calculates it kind of strange. I've had it calculate IBUs at 170, 180 IBUs before when I've put it in first wort hopping.
It's the software actually has a setting for first wort.
Okay. Well, it's been a while since I've done it, so it might not have had it back then.
Yeah, no, they have it in there, but so first wort hopping was something we had never done before. This one had a first wort hopping edition and then Whirlpool edition. That was it. Never done that before. Also, an insane amount of hops, dry hopping wise, was never. I think in our IPAs we usually do about 3 ounces per 5 to 6 gallons. When we brewed this one, we more than doubled that. And plus, you've got an insane amount in the Whirlpool edition as well. So.
Then you did it right.
Yeah. So
what about your dry hop timing? Were you dry hopping during?
I didn't do anything different this time.
Okay.
No. Well, I threw them in as fermentation slowing down.
But there was still some yeast activity, though.
Yeah, but we've found that if we waited until the yeast were just completely done, that apparently I think there's. After some research, I think Sean had found this, that I think some of the hop pellets will have a little bit of sugar in them, or there's something fermentable about them. So when I think at one point we dry hopped way after fermentation was done, and there was a little bit of diacetyl in the finished beer for some reason. Am I saying this? Am I? Yeah. And
I think it's all the oxygen that's still just
and
in
it didn't
the
get consumed
pelletized.
by the yeast.
And yeah, if there's no yeast in suspension,
So maybe it's
then
more oxidated than
coming out. But yeah, during fermentation, adding it to it, we noticed an increase of about 0.3, 0.5%, depending on between 3 and 7 pounds per barrel. Like on the beer that you guys did, we did 10 pounds per barrel on the dry hop. That beer is usually supposed to be 6.8, come out to 7.3.
Yeah.
And I can only attribute that to the 10 pounds per barrel, all the extra oxygen going into it, the yeast still active, being able to consume more.
Yeah, I noticed fermentation was a little different on this one as well. The yeast, they took off fast, and it looked like it was done. I was seeing signs that I've normally seen that say fermentation is just about done. And then I checked a gravity on it, and it actually was at 1.023. On day 5, and it looked like it was done. I was like, oh my God, this thing is not going to finish. So I dry hopped it then, and then it finished at 9.
Well, and that's one of those things that no matter how experienced we get, we tend to fall into that trap of visual cues.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, wait a minute, what's it doing? Well, there's still a lot of stuff going on there.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going by the rate of the bubbles,
right,
as it's coming through, and I check the gravity on it, and I can usually tell from the gravity sample if it's still going or not. It looked like it was almost. It didn't seem very active when I took a gravity sample when it was at 1.023, but that thing went down to 9.
What was the gravity at when you dry hopped it?
23.
Yeah.
Oh, that is whenever you dry hopped it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you still had plenty of activity to go.
Well, that's the thing, is that I didn't see a lot of activity, and so I thought, because it was a day 5, and I expected that with a beer with this kind of original gravity, I figured that it would have some ways to go, and then when it looked like it would slow down, I thought, well, I better go ahead and just throw the hops in here and dry hop it. But I did it all in one charge. I didn't break it up or anything.
So I
think Sean did the same with his, right?
Yeah. I want to go back and touch on 2 different things that you talked about there. The first one being first wort hopping. You said you'd never done that before, so obviously that was something that you did on the recommendation of these guys. So can you talk about why it is that you're a fan of first wort hopping, what it contributes? And
Nothing really scientific. Whenever we first started hearing about it, there was all these studies done saying that it's adding a little bit more to the beer, the presence of the oils in there, but that never made any sense to me, just because all those oils are so volatile. Whenever you boil them, it's going to be the same as a 60-minute edition.
As I always, what I understood it to be was that the pH of the wort prior to boil, it helped bond to some of those oils and make them less volatile and carry them through. I've also heard that that's complete bullshit. by actually Dr. Charlie Bamforth from
I read
UC
the same
Davis,
article.
who
He's
just
like,
says
you guys
it's
are
ridiculous.
dumb. Stop
Right, yeah.
thinking about that.
And but it's an old German brewing style, brewing method, so it's been done for a long time. When I used to brew IPAs, I haven't brewed IPAs for a long time, really. I always was a fan of first wort hopping, so I was curious why that was a recommendation.
I
of
think
yours.
it's mainly because we're using the same weight of hops at first wort versus 60-minute and getting a little bit less isomerization. So the bitterness is a little bit softer, a little bit nicer.
Okay.
I also think the adding them then the protein content, it'll kind of bind to all the polyphenols and everything. And even though again haze isn't the main outcome,
it helps keep those polyphenols in suspension.
And whenever you're doing biotransformation hopping, active fermentation hopping, you need polyphenols to bind to with the protein. So
Okay.
I think it benefits a lot. One of the beers that we brewed at my last brewery, we did first wort hopping. It was a traditional English style beer, and that beer always came out hazy as hell. And the first time we stopped doing first wort hops, it came out crystal. And so that's where I was kind of thinking with this style that might be beneficial. Let's see what happens. And I did kind of the same thing that you guys did with your beer, where I did a 10-gallon batch, split in two, did one first wort hopping, one 60-minute hopping, and one of them turned out hazy, one of them...
So you feel like that's actually a substantive value to the haziness then, is that it's actually helping hold those polyphenols in suspension?
I think so. I just kind of pray about it.
They're large particles. They will drop out after a while. So
but if
keeping
they have
those
something
in
to bind
suspension,
to, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense, and that would certainly lend itself to the idea that the haziness has some more value other than just a visual component.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
yeah. There is something else, and I think that kind of attributes to mouthfeel as well.
Okay.
I mean, proteins
It
attribute
would
to
have to,
viscosity.
really. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right,
the other thing I want to go back to here is the water chemistry part of it that you talked about. So you talked about normally on an IPA, you want a little bit more of a sulfate to chloride ratio. You want a higher sulfate to chloride ratio, and with this, you want to back that off a little bit.
No, actually, I'm not a chemistry guy, so I'm going to probably say a lot of things that are messed up here. But I believe it's the sulfites that I want more of with
Chloride.
It's the chloride.
It is
okay.
chloride.
See, I knew I was good.
So you normally
Gypsum is calcium sulfate.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
normally with an IPA, you want that sulfate ratio higher, and that does tend to accentuate
so with
bitterness.
this one, I did the
Dryness.
opposite.
Yeah. So you do, contrary to what you would normally do with an IPA, if you back that off, it softens the bitterness on it. Then, right? So
Absolutely.
That's something that you hear hoppy beer, higher sulfate ratio. And so it kind of struck me when he said that. That had never occurred to me.
I messed that up because, like in this,
No, you
particular
didn't
batch,
mess it up.
Well, I said something about increasing the sulfites, and I think I meant the opposite. So in this particular batch, we lowered the amount of gypsum that we would normally do in an IPA. It was actually fairly low. I just wanted to get that ratio right. And here we did a lot more of the calcium chloride in there to try to get that mouthfeel. And if I were to do this again, I would probably bump it up a little bit more.
Yeah, that's what we found too. Like whenever we were first brewing the style, we did the 2-to-1 ratio, which we brought up last time we talked. I think Jeremy brought up, do you do the 2-to-1 thing? And it's, oh yeah, we tried that.
Yeah, this was 2-to-1.
Ratios don't really work on a linear scale to volume, and we've done everything from like 10-to-1 calcium to sulfate versus 1-and-1, back and forth, and I still change it and tweak it all the time just because I'm crazy.
But generally speaking, you're looking for more of a chloride.
You want a stout mouthfeel.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's the best, easiest way to look at it.
Because the sulfates, when you put them in there, they are going to push up the bitterness. It's going to give it the bitterness a sharper and so you're not wanting that with these beers. You want that bitterness. You want to be very soft and in the background.
And because you're using like no dark malts, no roasted malts, very little caramel malts, specialty malts. You're mainly using base malts and adjuncts. You want something. You still want to perceive the maltiness of the beer.
So with this one, the one that we passed around here, this was fermented with the Omega Labs DIPA.
Okay.
So what happened was when I went to Stubby's to get the yeast, I was looking for a different yeast strain and only had one packet of it. So I grabbed the double IPA and gave it to Sean, and that's what you're tasting here. I've got another one that uses a different yeast combination that you'll taste in a second. But for this particular recipe, it was mostly 62% pale malt, 17% flaked oats, 17% flaked wheat, and then we threw some corn sugar in there, about 5%. And the reason for that, well, this is the concern that we had was there's not a lot of base maltness because we had a lot of the adjuncts, and we wanted to make sure this thing finished out. Even though we were mashing in a 147, 148 range, we still wanted to give some fermentables to finish this guy out. So we threw in some corn sugar in there to help with that, to get that to finish out. So, and it worked. I mean, it finished at about, and we were looking for the 8 to 10 range for this to finish, and the original gravity was 1.067. And so that gives us, about 7.5 or 6%. It was a little more than what I think that you guys got with your
right
double dry hop. But
well, I really think one thing that you guys that you nailed on this, the corn sugar, I think is really important. I think a lot of the bad New England IPA beers become really cloying, really sweet, and I think the dextrose, corn sugar, whatever you're using, turbinado. We use it in almost every single beer of this style, and I think it adds a bit of dryness to the cloying. You finish at 0.09 or 1.09. I think that's perfect. I've had plenty of beers from breweries that like that. I don't really know the scale, but in Plato, like 3 or 4 Plato, and it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, I taste that. That's terrible.
Yeah. So you're talking about
really
10, 12, 10, 16 in that range.
Yeah, usually 10,
3 to 4,
16,
yeah.
10, 18 a lot of times.
And the thing you got to realize, too, is when you're using these flaked adjuncts and that kind of thing is that you're going to have protein content in there that itself adds mouthfeel that's not necessarily reflected in the gravity of the beer. So the gravity does need to be low because there are mouthfeel components on top of that. And I agree with you that if you get up into those mid-teens, it's too much.
Yeah, unless you're starting off at 11-0.
It's kind of an odd contradiction in you want it to have mouthfeel but also be drinkable. And so it's a weird contradiction in how you're doing it. You want to dry it out, but you still want it to have mouthfeel. It's drinkability,
really, at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
That's where I think this style doesn't differ in traditional brewing, is you still want to be able to, no matter what the ABV is, whatever the circumstance, you still want to be able to make a beer that people want to drink an entire 4 or 6 pack of, whatever it may be. And I think with this one, it was nailed. It's very tasty.
Yeah, I agree.
I like it a lot.
I would say this, though, however, I know we talked about the Omega DIPA and the flaked adjuncts. So what we're going to do for our coupon code this week is we're going to give you 20% off on any of the Omega DIPA yeast strain, as well as any of our, I guess, flaked wheat and flaked oats. It'll be 20% off. The coupon code is Haze Bros.
Oh, perfect. Perfect.
That's HAZ.
Spell that out.
I love that yeast strain a lot. I don't use the same lab, but I use the exact same
strain.
So I know you're about to talk about yours. We use both of these strains on every New England IPA that we do. Usually not in conjunction together, depending on what the beer is. So on Extra Pulp, though, Sean nailed it. We do use the DIPA, not from Omega, but the same. It's the Conan from Monell. But that's what we use on those strains.
Do we have any more cups? I want to pass around.
So Mike, you lost this one. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
That was all Sean.
Real quick before we move on to the next beer, I want you to talk about what you like about how this beer came out and what you would like to see different the next time you do it.
Okay, so personally, I would like to bump the chloride a little bit. I think I didn't overdo it. I think I could use some more. I'm going to keep adding it until it gets too much and back off of it from there, right?
Yeah.
I think that you'll taste a difference with the different yeast, but I was really nervous about the dry hop the first hop. God, I can't talk now. The first wort
The
hop.
first word hop.
Because I had no idea really what that was going to do to bitterness. So
Right.
I was really trying. I didn't want to get it. I didn't want it to be too bitter, but I was really worried about that aspect. So I was really rolling the dice on this, and I think the balance is there when you get the different yeast. Like this came out a little more. The double IPA yeast attenuated the hops a little more. It came out a little more bitter than you'll taste here.
I agree with you on that. Yeah, and I think you're right. I think it's the chloride balance that does it. If you were to bump up the chloride ratio, that it would soften it a little bit. Just take that edge off a little bit.
I actually don't think it would. I think you're right where it needs to be
Yeah.
with that yeast strain. With the DIPA, any more than that, you're going to start getting minerality, and that is
really?
something
Okay.
completely
Yeah, no.
unwanting. Where
So-
that flavor is at, I think, is on point.
Okay.
I guess
But
I wouldn't
if
change
he
much
were
of that.
if he were wanting to soften up the bitterness, then would you just
I
adjust
just
that in the
dial
bittering
back
hop?
the first word
Yeah,
hops a little
okay,
bit.
okay.
That's it. Maybe 5-10% weight.
The other thing that I would do is I was reading that because based on the conversations that dry hopping does raise the pH of the finished beer, and so I didn't treat the finished beer pH in this at all. And I took a pH reading of it. It was like between 4.6 and 4.7. I would like to see it a little lower. And so if I were to brew this again, I would probably add a couple of ml of lactic acid or something into the keg and taste it and see where it's at. So I brought a bottle that I dosed with a certain amount with lactic. So if I don't know what it tastes like because I had to just guess. And so I used a small amount, but it's something I'd like to see if it even tastes any different. But so the next sample that was passed around is the same beer, but it was a blend between the London Ale 3 and the American Wheat. So the idea there was that the London Ale 3 would contribute a lot more fruitiness to the beer, but I don't like English yeast because they tend to under attenuate for me.
They flock out before they're done. Yeah,
God, they piss me off. So I threw in some American Wheat. I threw in a low flocculating yeast in there to blend it in so that the beer would continue to go after that London Ale dropped out.
I think compared to the first one, this has more of a sharp lemony kind of flavor to
I
it.
like this one better.
Oh, really? I like the
Me
first one
personally.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get more fruitiness out of the
I get a lot more
London Ale.
fruitiness. Yeah, this I get a lot more fruit character.
Oh yeah,
A lot
feel
more
like
esters.
Already,
The
yeah,
body
the
feels a little
esters.
closer with the London Ale and the wheat.
I get a little more
than it did with
bitterness.
the-
out
like
of
the
this one,
first
though,
one's a
too.
little leaner. They're both like right at
What
it.
did yours finish at, Sean?
9.
9? Yeah, it's weird. They finished the same. So
these were
Body
brewed
character.
together. There was
same
beer.
wort. We
Same
just
wort?
pitched
Okay.
different
Yeah.
yeasts
Right.
and
Well,
dry hop separately.
When did you dry hop this one versus was it at the 2-3?
So I dry hopped this on day 5 at the 2-3. When did you dry hop yours?
Mine
the first
was
beer.
dry hopped probably closer to like 15 or 14.
Really?
Yeah. Mine,
I think
mine
that had a
finished
lot
out
more to do
a
with
lot
it
quicker
than
his.
the like I said, we use the DIPA and London L3 on everything, and for the last 2 years, probably brewed 300-400 different batches with those two yeasts, and there is a ton of similarities between the two yeasts. They are almost indistinguishable depending on what kind of beer we're doing, whether it's part of the pulp series, just a random IPA that we're doing. I mean, everyone that homebrews know there's a ton of versatility between this yeast and this yeast.
Yeah.
London L3 and the double IPA, the Conan yeast, are exceptionally similar.
Well,
Yeah.
they're probably
They're probably the
derived-
same strain.
Yeah.
Just a mutation.
Mutated
Yeah.
a little bit different. They finish almost the exact same. I don't get any kind of distinguishing factors out of them. The haziness doesn't really matter on it at that point. The fruitiness though is the biggest contributing factor.
I think
about
this
the-
has a harsher bitterness to it and a sharper edge, and I get more of a lemony citrus flavor out of it.
Yeah, I
than-
get more citrus from this
Yeah,
one than I do the other one.
absolutely.
But you're right; it does have more bitterness.
I think that's because of the wheat strain, actually.
okay.
For,
That could
for
be,
the,
maybe.
for the most part.
I fermented the London Ale was fermented at 20C. I get that's 68. It was just straight up 68. I fermented a little, on the higher end just to get some more of that fruitiness out of there. But
I think it's a great call.
Yeah, no.
well, that was the goal.
Always
Is I
should.
wanted as much fruit as I could get to complement the hops. I know that
Eric?
you guys were dry hopping the with Galaxy on the batch that we're comparing against.
Yes.
I had a bad experience with dry hopping with Galaxy recently.
Me too. It was $30 a pound.
And so in this one, I knew that y'all's would have more Galaxy in the dry hop, but I just did Mosaic and Amarillo anyway because I just love that combination.
Yeah,
I think Sean did the same.
Yeah, we did the same dry hop.
It's part of the problem I think with Galaxy a lot of times is, for me anyway, is I get a lot of soapiness sometimes if it's overused. To me, that's one of the things that kind of throws me off of Galaxy. I'm not a huge fan, but especially not at $30 a pound.
Yeah.
And you can only get it like one time a year.
Yeah. So I'm not a huge fan. So, but you know, I think both of these are. It's pretty exceptional how you can get. You know, you try these two side by side, and it's the same wort. There's a big difference.
Huge difference. I would really never have guessed that was the same wort.
Oh,
those were two entirely different beers.
Absolutely.
It's interesting, isn't it?
All right, you're still really close to the base beer that you're aiming for, I think, as well. With both of these beers, I feel like you have two different shades of the same thing that's aiming for another thing. You know, that one target, and they're both really close to target. They just have different characteristics, you know.
Yeah.
I think what's really crazy is, so you guys nailed all but one of the hops on there. We definitely use Amarillo, Citra Mosaic on there, but we also use Yukonot in it as well. And
I forget. I'm sorry.
Pay no attention to the man behind the
curtain. The malt bill is exceptionally different than what we do, and it still is. It's really close.
Yeah, they look.
I like the malt bill.
Really
close.
So the one that's being passed around now is the same that you just tasted, but this has the extra lactic acid added to it. It may not have even affected the pH or made any difference. I was a little conservative because I was
the same one that you had, the first one we had.
No. So the first beer you tasted was Sean's.
Uh-huh.
The second one you tasted was mine. The one you're tasting now is also mine, but I dosed it with some lactic to drop the pH.
It's really odd. I would have expected that the lactic would have given it a little bit of a sharper edge, but it's actually softened it a little bit.
I know.
Yeah. I think it made it more crisp. Yeah. More. I like it more than.
I do too.
Sure.
I like it better.
I get more dankness out of it.
Huh.
Oh.
Smell it.
Yes, I do too. Yeah,
it's more dank.
It's taken that sharp edge off of it and softened it some, I think, and that lets some of the fruity flavors come out of it.
You get more of the dankness?
Absolutely.
Yes, I do.
It's sharper.
It's weird.
Because I didn't get that in that first sample you poured. Yeah.
But I kind of like that on it.
It's actually kind of lapsing into Dizank.
Maybe a little oniony.
Choice.
So the pH came out to be about 4.65 on the beer, which I looked it up. It's a little on the high end, and it tasted a little on the high end. And so when I filled this growler, I dosed it with 0.2 ml of lactic acid.
0.2 or 2?
0.2. So I have, because of my experiments with yeast counting, I have this long glass pipette that has lots of graduates. Yeah.
0.2 milliliters in this growler?
Skinny,
that's
I wish.
0.2 ml of lactic.
I'm shocked that made any difference.
So what I started to do, and then this is just my own ignorance, I took I took 3 100 ml samples of the beer, and I kept one alone, and I dosed one with 1 ml of lactic and one with a half a ml. And the dosed beers tasted like shit. It was lactic as hell. It dropped the pH to like 3.4. Like it was ridiculous. And so I said, okay, so
sour IPAs are the next thing. It's fine.
Well, it was just so lactic. It was gross. And so I thought, if I'm going to dose this beer, I got to do it in the keg and just taste it along the way. And I got lazy and never got around to doing it because I just liked it as is. Yeah. But I thought, when I was filling this growler for the show tonight, I thought, well, let me just go ahead, and I did some research, and somebody said, well, if you're going to drop the pH in your beer, do about 0.25 ounces per 5 gallons at a time and see how it goes. All right, so I did the same, except I did 0.125 per 5 gallons and scaled that down, and it ended up being, I used Alexa to help me with this math. She's so smart. She's great.
Very sexy.
And so I dosed it with 0.2.
So somewhere the NSA has
she
a
knows
file
all your
folder
passwords.
titled Treadway Acid Dosing.
I could probably pull up the recording
I do Alexa
of my
all the
voice
time. They're
now.
going to brew great beer. Like if NSA ever wants to start a brewery, they're going to kill it.
I could probably pull up the recording of me saying, Alexa, How much is 0.125 ounces in milliliters? But anyway, so I dosed the bottle and then
Michael, the metric
Yeah.
system is never going to catch on.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Proper
actually,
response.
I think this is a really cool experiment.
Yeah,
because
I do too.
I don't really think that I would have ever thought to add lactic acid to change the overall.
I have
mean,
never
after the
heard
fact, you know?
of measuring the pH in your finished beer.
Well, these guys said it because when we were at the interview, or we were interviewing them back about 6 weeks ago, I asked them about that, and I think they brought up that the pH raises with the dry hopping, and I verified that online, and apparently there was a scientific study done, and
That was a really cool paper.
yeah, I read.
Those
I
are my
just
favorite
read
kind of
the
studies.
abstract. And said, okay. So what does this mean? Okay, so
Yeah,
what do I do?
TLDR.
Yeah, so it basically in a 5-gallon batch, I think he said about 4 ounces or so of hops in a 5 to 5.5 gallon batch, or raise the pH a tenth, 0.1.
Which is
Which is actually 100th. It raised it 100th in alkalinity because it's logarithmic. Like, it's a lot.
Right.
And so-
and I got to tell you, I
perceived
like this
easily.
one better.
Yeah, I think it brings
I'm
it in
shocked
regular.
that amount of lactic acid made that much difference because
Shit's
you're
potent.
obviously not tasting
The
the
lactic
flavor. It's truly the pH that's affecting the flavor of it, and it's a stark difference. It really made a big difference. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
I think, like, the first time you guys came to Turning Point, we talked, I think, a long time, actually, that night about that. That's something we've been manipulating a lot. Like, obviously, in the mash, it's got to be certain proponents so you get as much extract as possible. Then we talked about, we started messing with lactic acid in the boil, and that was starting to affect the yeast, so we didn't want to mess with that anymore. Now we're adding phosphoric or lactic acid during dry hopping, depending on how big the load is going into there. And, yeah, it's something that we are messing with quite a bit to try to hit that target goal, because there is a fullness that alkalinity versus acidity is going to bring to the table. And I think a little bit more acidity. I mean, if you look at most beers finishing out, they're finishing out 4.3, 4.4, somewhere in there, and that's traditionally where it's supposed to be at. Dry hopping this high, going to the. I mean, we had the first beer that we did with the 10 pounds per barrel ended up at 4.8,
Yeah,
and that was brutal. And
it just tastes kind of just blah, right?
absolutely, I think that's
it
where
just tastes
some of the-
watered down. It's like
we
you just
talk- yeah.
added water to your beer. It just tastes kind of
just a thinness to it, and so
By adding all the hops, are you just adding water to it, or is it actually basic? Because you would think, I mean, from a standpoint, just for me, when I'm thinking, you're adding all these extra alpha acids, you would think it would lower it, right?
well, no, I think it's actually because it's more of a soil at this point. It's more alkaline, like
Okay.
it's more alkaline. It's going to add quite a bit to be more base than what it already is.
Okay.
It's going to go closer to the 7. I know there was an article done where a guy took a beer, like 2 10-gallon beers, and did 1 pound per barrel and like 30 pounds per barrel, something ridiculous. And the pHs were insane. One of them finished out at like 4.4, 4.5, and one of them was like 5.2.
Wow.
And then the article that I think, I'm pretty sure we read the same one, but it was based off of that. And he's like, yeah, the person that was writing the science was like, yeah, it's ridiculous how much it changes. You really have to be on point with that. And
Well,
so
that's
when,
about what you guys use, about 30 pounds per barrel, right?
I will tell you this.
if I had the money
Yeah.
for it, I'd piss
Yeah, right.
everyone at Turning Point off and do that. Absolutely.
I will tell you
If
that
I could use no malt, that's what I would do.
You need a new cold box. Just,
Mash in with hops. I'm fine with it. Let's do it.
we brewed a pale ale one time, and I just did something really stupid, and I decided to put baking soda in the boil.
Oh,
No, sir.
yeah.
Yeah,
Big no, sir.
Wow.
I think I did it. So it was one of
It's
those
Friday,
things
it's okay.
that I just was like, oh, I forgot to treat the water. and I just put baking soda in the boil.
Oh,
That beer, I dumped the entire keg. The pH was so high, it just tasted like watered. It was so bad. I mean,
A little bit of bicarbonate
I can
goes
still
a
hear
long
the sound
way.
of that keg going bloop, 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 bloop as I
gosh.
dumped it in my front yard. That was
The
awful.
reason JP's laughing so hard is because we've definitely done that.
Oh, yeah.
Not
Now we're getting
highly
the skeletons in our
unrecommended.
closets.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
not
yeah.
fun. We didn't dump it. We just made other people drink it. And it was
Oh
fine.
no, yeah, we've had.
It was torture, really, at a certain point.
That's why you have friends.
Again, with the
Invite the
NSA,
church
they're
over.
very welcome.
Yeah.
So do we have Jeremy available? Can we drink his beer? I want to find out.
We have it
can
over
bring it
here.
out.
Yeah, we're
Hey,
getting ready to pass it out.
Greg, will you text him real quick and see if he's ready? He's okay? Okay.
Oh, he's.
The beers were delicious, though. They
Okay,
were both
well,
really
No,
good.
yeah, very, very,
I-
very good.
I love the blending of the yeast. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut into that time. But
No.
I would like to say I did think Sean's was closer to this beer as far as what the clone goes, but
Yeah.
all three of them were great. I do prefer the one that was dosed a little bit
So did I.
with the lactic
So did
acid,
I.
but they were both. I would drink the hell out of them. I think they were great jobs.
Okay, I'm gonna try
obviously honored that you guys wanted to clone it. That's awesome. But I thought they're both delicious. If there's any more, I will
And,
gladly taste
So
them.
Okay,
They were
so,
hazy. So
I
And
didn't-
they were hazy.
and it
Killed
stayed.
it. That's all that
stayed.
matters, right?
So
Okay,
The
so-
haze.
That was our only goal.
is this gonna fall out?
Haze for days.
Yeah.
So one thing I will say, you said you used 10 pounds per barrel on the dry hopping. Ours was about almost 3
We're calling Jeremy.
ratio wise.
That's pretty fucking cute.
Hey, Jeremy.
Just a tickle.
It's
Why don't you guys just grow up a little bit?
Oh, come on, guys.
There's no way to do that off the air and then
Oh, is that
patch him
Jeremy?
in, or-
No, he's here. Jeremy's here. You hear us,
I'm
Jeremy?
here.
Jeremy.
Here.
All right. Awesome.
Jeremy, your beer's terrible. They killed you.
Wow.
Was this
Just kidding. I
bottle-
haven't tried it yet.
Was this bottle for the entire table?
Yeah, what's
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So,
No, we've
JP,
got one.
that's you
We've
and
got
me.
one here too, Mike.
Plenty to go around.
okay. So there's a lot of people in here, man.
No,
so.
we all got a bottle. We got a bottle. You guys got a bottle.
You got a bottle.
You
look
get a
un-
bottle.
look
You
under
get
your
a
seat.
You get a
Jeremy Oprah. All right.
He got it.
Okay. So let's get to Jeremy's favorite things
Bugatti.
here.
Jeremy, you're still there, right?
I'm still here.
Sorry.
So
you're
Jeremy,
good.
where we want to start is we want to talk to you to begin with about what your philosophy going into writing this recipe and coming up with a schedule for brewing based on the conversations you had with the guys at Turning Point when you were first there. So can you talk a little bit about what you took away from that conversation and how it played into your plan to brew the beer?
Yeah, so basically, sorry, I'm getting a weird echo, so
Oh, sorry.
no, you're good. I tried to go off the percentages that they recommended, and the blends of the base malt. So I did Golden Promise and Maris Otter Pale, which was about 56% of the base. And then I did 20% two-row, 9% flaked oats, 9% flaked wheat, and 3.6 German pale wheat. And then 1.8% honey malt.
Okay.
I
love
kind of like
honey
to
malt.
throw honey malt in.
Love it.
For breakfast.
So you were really layering the flavor there with base malts and really not specialty malts, but a layer of different types of base malt flavors then.
Yes. So that's kind of something I try to do. Just add a little complexity, a little depth.
Okay. So now you mashed pretty high. You mashed at 154, so you were looking for a fairly high mash temperature and a little bit lower attenuation.
Yes. So from everything I've read on the style, it's kind of what everybody seems to do, around 154. That way it just kind of finishes a little higher and I get more mouthfeel.
One of the things we talked about with Sean and Mike here is that the water chemistry was a big part of it. What were your water additions like?
So basically, I just did a 2-to-1 of
In terms
calcium
of
chloride.
sulfite to chloride ratio?
Yeah. But I went heavier on the calcium chloride.
On the chlorides, right, okay.
And my mash pH was right around 5.3.
Did you steal some of our water?
Yeah.
I'm looking here in the notes
Yeah.
and it says sparge with Bedford water.
Yeah.
Exactly, man.
Did you have to like go to the public works department to do that? I'm just curious. I saw that and thought that was hilarious.
No, I live right down Brown Trail.
Sure.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I think that I find really different in your sample here is I do think that you definitely can taste there's a difference in the malt bill.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And I got to say I like it.
I like it too.
Yeah.
I do like the malt bill on it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean you can taste a little more richness to the malt bill.
Yeah.
I like that complexity there.
I agree.
It's nice. It's a little different than the other ones that we drank tonight. So I don't know if that's necessarily something a lot of people do, but I kind of like it.
I don't think they do. I don't know if it was whenever we were actually having the last discussion or not, but I talked about kind of not necessarily what the malt bill was that we did, but I don't know if Jeremy just got me drunk and made me tell him things, or it was actually in front of everybody. But
Impossible.
I did mention that we use 8 different malts on Extra Pulp and on pretty much all of the New England style IPAs that we do. Was that to you guys, or did Jeremy get me
I
drunk?
heard that. I just didn't
Yeah.
know what 8 malts to pick.
He ignored. Yeah. He was like,
That's
I
exactly
went-
I don't
what
blame him.
watched
The beers
that
were
video
great. Don't listen to me. Crap, I was wrong.
and pulled
he left
that.
his sunglasses.
He did.
Yeah, I
You
did
got
come
yourself
back
drunk.
with those.
I know.
But yeah, that's where I kind of got the idea as far as blending the Maris Otter and Golden Promise.
Yep.
And then as far as the 2-row, that's honestly just a little cost saving.
Sure.
I like to be smart and say diastatic power. Like that's why we do that.
I agree with Stubby though. I can tell a difference in the malt bill, and I like it better.
No, it's fuller.
I
It's
get
nice.
more character out of that.
Well, I think it adds a little balance to it.
It
really,
does.
You know, I
does.
like that. So it's kind of nice.
It's all 3 have been, or all 4 I guess now have been great.
Fantastic.
I think
Cool.
personally
Yours is more bitter, Jeremy.
it is more bitter.
It has
Yeah.
it has a more bitter bite to it.
Yeah, there's a little, like off the first sip, after you get a little more, it's not as, it's like some soapy stringency, or I can't quite make out
It's
what it
Galaxy.
is.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I didn't do that with the Galaxy dry hopping. I had bad experience.
You know, and you know that's exactly what I was talking about Galaxy earlier. Is that's why I'm not a big fan of it because I get a soapiness from it. I'm not a big fan either. Okay,
I did spend
I'm not a big fan
$7,000
either.
on it.
Yeah.
So
But
I had to
holy
use it.
shit.
Hey, I
man.
will say that my least favorite beer I've ever had from you guys
Thank you.
was the one with the Galaxy dry hopping.
That's like all
See?
of them.
Yeah.
No,
This one's Dry Hopping Galaxy.
I know, but I like
But,
Sean
yeah.
brings. I'm married, have kids. I can't go to your brewery as much as Sean can.
We're very
Sean
family
brings me
friendly.
beer.
I appreciate that, Sean. Real friend, really.
And
if you think
and
about
all the
it.
beers he's brought me, I've loved every single one of them. But my least favorite is the one that was more Galaxy dry
It's
hop.
this
No,
one.
it was
Yeah.
the single options that he didn't like.
Yeah, no one liked. Well, some people
Enigma.
like that.
And I did pretty much the same beer, but didn't use Galaxy, and that flavor is just not there.
Yeah. It's a Galaxy.
It's a Galaxy.
And it's amazing to me that people pay $30 a pound for that shit.
But I think it's
I
this
think-
year's
I
crop
think it's
because
the-
I've used it. Like we've used it for the past 3 years, and it's been fine.
That's what I'm
This is the
thinking.
first year where I've noticed this just weirdness with it.
The vast
There's a
majority
level-
of Galaxy beers I've had, I've really liked. This is the first one where I can say, "Oh, okay, I can pick up that soapiness you're talking about." Yeah.
2017 wasn't a good year for Australian hops, actually. So
Yeah,
they
you know
used a
what-
lot more pesticides because they were having mold problems
wait.
in 16.
So now I'm going to
Well,
get cancer.
you know what's amazing?
According to Wikipedia.
First of all, Mike, we're all going to get cancer.
you're right.
Just go to
You're right.
WebMD. We already
yeah,
all have cancer.
WebMD.
You
Galaxy
already have
exposure.
But no, they were using certain pesticides that they used in Tettnang, and it didn't work for the same climate, and they
Right.
had really bad mold growth on there, and so they used a different pesticide that apparently makes hops taste like shit. And hopefully they're going to change that for 18.
Well, I'll say this, that one of the things that I have new guys come in that, they're developing breweries and stuff like that, and they're like,
Don't do it.
I want to do.
Don't do it. Huge mistake.
Never open a brewery.
But
Don't
but
do it.
a lot of the guys, they're like, hey, Stubby, we want, a pound of Galaxy and a pound of, New England, or,
pound?
well, I mean, they're doing, they're doing homebrew scale stuff.
Still
But
cute.
they're still trying to
Samples.
But, you got the Randall Jr. That's nice.
Yeah, they're trying to develop the recipes for the brewery, and I'm like, dude, do all
Don't
you
develop
can
them
do.
with Galaxy.
Do all you can do to get away from the New Zealand hops, the Australian hops, and the only reason I say that is because you're going to have a problem getting them, and they're going to be stupid expensive. So
Don't plan on scaling up to anything more than a barrel and getting Galaxy.
or a lot of any of them, the Wakatus
well,
and
The other
the
side,
Citra?
Kahatu.
Motueka.
Yeah, you can almost speak like South
Aborigine.
Pacific. You go Mahatu, Wakahiti.
it's Motueka. Just so we're
Motueka.
clear.
Oh, okay, sorry.
It's Motueka.
Wanapoka Pipi.
So
Kamana Wanalea.
Delaware. Delaware.
You say it's Motueka?
It's Motueka.
It's not Motika?
You've
It's
broken
not
Brandon.
Boom Motika.
So I will say that they did tell us on the show that they used 10 pounds per barrel of dry hopping, and when we were formulating this recipe, I scaled that down to homebrew levels.
It's dumb.
And I was like, no.
Half a pound or
We
something.
used about a quarter.
Are you kidding? No, 10 pounds per barrel is like almost a pound or a little over a pound per 5 gallons.
Wow.
Any big
And
brewer
so-
has also said that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Absolutely.
And all I said was we sold out of it in like 4 hours. So
Yeah.
it worked out pretty
Well,
well.
I think
So this one was about 7 ounces.
I think when you get into that kind of hopping rate on a small scale, you end up with a beer loss that is.
Oh, it's the
untenable.
same.
I mean,
It's
you have a lot of beer
it's
losses
the
too.
same.
Yeah.
But in a
That's real
conical, it's a
life.
little bit different, isn't it? You're
No,
able to pull
not
it off
even
the bottom.
slightly. It's the exact same.
Is it?
Actually, probably a little bit worse than a conical
Yeah.
because even though you think it would like to settle out like geese, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It likes to
that's
hang
why at
out.
homebrew, I think I would plan for a 6-gallon batch, and you'd probably end up with
Yeah,
around
I'd
5.
top that dude up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed, Jeremy, you did, it looked like 6 ounces dry hopping total?
I kind of went
Total.
I kinda-
it was 5 or 6.
what we talked about in that interview. I kept went a little heavy on the drop, but I tried to make up with the flame out and the hop stand
So what
for
is
the
this?
amount.
You mentioned in your notes, you said remove dry hop tube. What does that mean? Did you?
I basically dry hop in the keg
Yeah.
with one of those little
On the stem, you
tubes.
just
You
pull
just
it
tie
out.
Like a
some.
stainless mesh.
Keeping it real.
Those things are
Yeah.
dope.
Okay.
Yeah, but in the amount of hops, I've never filled that thing up like that.
It expanded and bent the tube, didn't it?
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah, there's so on the big batch side now.
Big batch.
I would highly suggest if you're trying to brew New England style to get one of the dry hop tubes for your kegs. I think they are worth their weight in gold because you don't have to worry about oxidation, which is always the biggest issue with this style specifically. But yeah, those things are great. We kind of had our own mode of it.
I think that's a great question because we were talking about this with this particular style. Is it a style that's best served at your brewery, or is this something that you may be concerned with shelf life later on down the road? With
two of the owners here from a brewery that does not distribute, I would definitely say get it at the brewery, or else it's literally going to be fucking impossible to get it,
right?
Unless you want to spend way too much money,
right?
But no, for sure. Overall, we have had growlers and cans that we've tried that have been 6 months old, and they still taste really good.
They're fine.
But we release these beers whenever they should be drank, and the epitome of narcissism and ego is what feeds Turning Point. And so drink them when we tell you to fucking drink them. Which is now.
Well, that was one of the things. With any brewery, yeah.
Push them out.
Why are you aging an IPA?
That was one of the things I thought when we were talking about the Reddit thing where the guy was like, how do I keep it hazy and keep it from dropping out? And I was thinking, well, you probably should have drank it
sooner, yeah.
Roll it like a wheat beer. Do that.
Well, no,
he's talking about
haze
is dropping out after 3 weeks.
Roll it.
Drink it before 3 weeks.
Roll the keg, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, a beer like that,
let's go.
You keg that, you better drink it in a week and a half, really. I mean,
exactly.
We've had plenty that are fine. I mean, this beer now is a month old that we have, and
y'all have a lot better oxygen remediation practices
Absolutely.
than brewers do.
Well, but I would also say
I would disagree.
Same
I think
time,
there's ways to meet. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, Stubby,
No.
I would kind of disagree. We haven't really changed anything. Like the only thing that's really changed is the volume. Like we do have still the SS Brewtech Conicals, which are designing. Rosanna is what we call her.
You're looking to sell them. You don't need them anymore because you're professionals.
Well, no, we still use them for all of our beers that we actually like to drink all the time.
Is the SS Brewtech harder to clean? Because that's why I bought the Spike.
Because you went Spike.
A little easier to clean, I think.
I just thought the Spike was
if you
cooler.
spend the extra $50 to get the spray ball, it's perfect. No, I wanted to get the Spike stuff, but whenever we were looking to buy our equipment, Spike was still doing the Kickstarter and stuff. Yeah, It wasn't ready yet, and I love the Spike stuff. I've seen it in use.
Awesome.
I'd
really
use it at friends' house. They're gorgeous, but I will say, I would spend the extra $100 for SS. I love it. It's perfect. They don't use the. I'm not going to get into it. I would prefer. No, I don't like ball valves. I like butterfly valves.
Yes.
And SS does butterfly valves.
No, spikes are butterflies.
Okay, sure. But not everywhere.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
really?
Everywhere. Where's not?
Butterflies are much better than balls. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
no, it has a butter.
Whenever I had a butterfly on my face,
the newer
I've
ones,
not been
maybe
upset about
newer.
it,
but they're butterfly.
They're all butterfly now.
The sample valve is just your regular sample valve, but
especially pink butterflies.
Just whenever I was looking at it, that was my biggest deal.
What did you see? Ball valves?
I've never told anybody to get their butterfly off my face.
I would never have bought a ball
stuck
valve.
in there. I hate ball valves. So okay, well if that's something Casey more than totally awesome, that's great.
Casey?
But I do love the SS Brewtech stuff. It's great, and we use them the same way. We're using our unitanks now that are 20 barrels.
So do we still have Jeremy here?
Jeremy,
I'm here.
Yes.
Really? How pissed is your wife right now?
Jeremy, are you driving
How's
up
the party
here?
going? You
I
should
wish
be
I
here
was,
by now.
man.
Party.
Gosh.
Jeremy, if I were you, I'd have hung up on us a long time ago.
Hey, man, teachers are crazy, man. They know how to party.
Yeah, I bet.
That's why I never was a teacher. I couldn't hang.
But hey, man, we appreciate you coming on, man.
Absolutely.
You don't have to hang with us unless you want to, but you can always watch us on
yeah,
Facebook.
I'll probably drop off.
Hey, man, thanks for doing the competition. I think it was great, man. So there's a couple things that I kind of wanted to go over before we maybe get into more some of this. Is first the coupon code for this week is Haze Bros, which is HAZEBRO S, not Z. And that's 20% off for all of your different. That's for the flaked wheat and for the flaked oats, as well as the Omega DIPA yeast. Right. So,
DIPA.
Yeah, DIPA. Yeah,
You're gonna want that DIPA. Can I say what the recipe was?
It's only good for.
Is that fine?
It's only good for 90 days. Yeah.
Recipe for
You
what?
can tell us one.
Well, the actual beer they're
over.
trying to clone, like I don't really care.
Yes, please
it's
do.
not a big
Please
deal.
do. Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm still on the line.
No, Jeremy, you're already committed to leaving, so if you would please leave, that'd be great.
No,
I'm gonna veto
I'm still
this.
on the line to
gonna
make
veto
sure I can
this.
get a can of that. I want something to compare to.
Well,
I'll bring
nothing-
a can
nothing
on
compares
Monday.
to you, Jeremy.
We have a homebrew club
Okay.
meeting on Monday. I'll bring a can of theirs and
Yeah, I
we
left
have a
some
growler
beer.
here.
Y'all take it for
I'll
sure.
bring a can. They can
Okay,
taste it.
cool.
Yeah,
You
sure.
give me
We'll
the
share
meeting on
that with
Monday?
other people.
Low fills.
So I'm gonna, cause we do everything in Play-Doh. I'll have to do the old.
Oh, you're pro now.
Just
Uh,
multiply
just go
times
with
four.
Play-Doh.
Basically times 4.
It's above 10, so it's not the same at that scale. I believe
It's close.
It's not 1074 because that's 18. And I know that one really well. It's 16.5, which I believe is 1068. Could be wrong.
Okay.
Bye.
Yeah, you're close enough.
16.5. Then it's 38% two-row, 14% Golden Promise.
Wait a minute. Why does Jeremy have Golden Promise on here?
Yeah.
Hey, man.
Because he was
There's a little-
Because Jeremy was
There
listening
was a
after
back
hours.
channel
Listening.
going on.
Hey, I would say this, that I think he stayed later than
He
you
did.
did.
He
He
did.
drank less.
I
I
did.
got a little
You just had to
trash.
turn around and look at the sacks of malt.
It's almost like he's a champion or something.
Oh, you hear that? He turned around and said he looked at the sacks of malt.
Did I win?
That's
Oh,
smart.
that's shit. That
He
is
was
rude.
choking out your
That is
sacks,
smart.
dude.
And then it's like 12% oat malt, which is kind of a new thing that a lot of people are doing.
Just regular
Like
oat
the
malt.
golden
Oat malt.
naked oats.
Fuck
Oh
yeah.
my God, are you
You
milling
sure?
that shit?
Hell yeah.
Oh
sure?
my God, what a pain in the ass.
Oh, no, it's great because it's like
Fantastic.
using rice hulls, but you also
I
get
get that.
extract in it and oat, which
Yeah.
is great.
They're chewing it up like
Every New
chicha.
England brewery is doing it now.
Really?
It's all of them.
What percentage was the oats you said?
Oat malt.
Oat
Oat
malt?
malt
Oat malt.
specifically.
Man, that
Mainly
shit is
an English
impossible to mill.
It's like, oh no, it's fine. It's not that big.
You just run it through one time?
Yeah. Is it? And we only have a 2-roller. We don't have
Yeah.
4 or anything.
That shit.
It is just very fine.
Yeah.
They spritz it with water before they mill it.
I wish we had the capabilities of doing
They
that. No, my
whisper softly.
Cellarman's very lazy. He was so lazy he didn't even show up today.
Yeah.
James.
Oh,
But,
James.
What percentage?
Yeah.
what
I love
percentage
everyone
was the
knows
oats?
James. Like, of course he was too lazy.
you know one of the funniest
Is it
things
James
ever when
or
he was
Jake?
when he was in transition.
Jake?
When he was in transition, I talked to him about working at the shop a little bit, and he
Really? We're going to
he
let
told me-
transition
no,
go
no,
right by?
No, but anyway,
No, I had
Flashback.
a joke, dude. Don't-
listen.
Let it go. Let it
Was
go.
he
This is
transitioning
funny.
from
This
male
is
to
funny.
female or female to male?
So anyway,
He's post-op.
the funniest thing ever is I was like, hey man, I said, you know, that's cool. Well, maybe I can send you an email or something about, maybe coming to work for us. And he goes, I said, what's your email? He goes, sitsOnCouch@gmail.com.
No. Sorry. No. Wrong. That's fake news. It's actually sits on sofa
Sits on.
at hotmail.com.
Hotmail.
He's so damn lazy,
That's so lazy.
he hasn't gone to Outlook yet.
Yeah. He's got a
That's
Hotmail
him.
account.
That's James.
Sorry, James.
Hey, at least it's on
That's
AOL.
my cellarman and co-owner of my brewery
I've got to say, oh my
that we
God.
trust with our lives.
sit- I knew it
Rocking
was
that
something like
desktop.
Sits on sofa. You know why he chose that one?
Because he sits on a sofa.
No. Because the first time I ever heard it, he said, "Because it rhymes." Thank you, Jeremy. I appreciate that. That's James. Sits on sofa because it rhymes.
I need to meet this man.
Yep, nailed it. So yeah,
Really?
so
Did you tell him he was a sofa king?
I would
Sofa
never
king.
tell him
He's
that.
a sofa
King.
I just
He's
don't
so
call him a
fucking
prick.
He's suffocating James.
But yeah, so 38% two-row, 12% Golden Promise, 12% oat malt, 15% flaked oats, then like 1.72% Crystal 15.
Crystal.
Oh. Crystal. Hardly knew her.
There you
Wow.
go.
Nomenclature.
It's only a little bit. It's a dash.
2.3 to make it an even for honey malt, and 10% carafoam.
Okay. So you guys, your base malt is
the honey
50%.
malt-
I think you
Yeah,
said
you nailed it,
30% and
Jeremy.
12%. So it's
Yeah.
50% base malt, and the rest is the flaked oats.
Adjuncts and specialty.
That's a fairly
So Jeremy,
complicated.
I
malt
gotta
bill.
know.
Yeah,
I
it's
gotta
fine.
understand. How come in your recipe you have Golden Promise, which is the exact malt they have?
He has honey malt
and
as
you have
well.
honey malt in there. I'm
I
a little-
do recall mentioning honey malt in
He
that
did.
last conversation.
He
we
did.
did.
He did.
We're gonna have
No,
to go
Golden
back to the
Promises
video.
seems to be the go-to for one of the base malts in this style.
Golden. So
Okay.
our biggest seller is called Texas with a $, and I personally love the taste of Golden Promise, but I hate brewing with it because its extract potential is garbo.
That's why you need to
Yeah.
use Irix.
They don't
have a Golden
Promise.
No,
Yeah, they
but
have
their pale
pale
malt is
malt.
very much
Yeah,
like
yeah,
English pale
yeah,
malt.
it is.
No, it's Maris-Otter, and there's a really big difference between Maris-Otter and Golden Promise.
I think the Irix
In
is right.
stouts,
Is between
I
the
want
Golden.
Irex Pale.
I think
for
it's
sure.
between. Personally, it's a tweener.
It's a tweener.
You know why?
Oh my
Because
God.
Scotland does it best.
Let's
Am I right, Nigel?
Oh, Nigel.
Scotland Cape.
I had to have
Oh,
one. I had to
there
have
was,
one.
There
Had
were
to have
so
one.
many coasters.
You know what, Nigel? We really were gonna wear our kilts today because that's what we do.
There
but,
might have been 3 sharp edge.
but we love you, so we didn't do it.
I have gasoline and will set you on fire.
JP's the brown one. Go for him. It's fine.
That's
You're gonna
like
say
three-
next time
that's
y'all
like
wanna wear
$3 a
kilts, do
gallon.
it.
So what about the
$3
hop
a
schedule?
gallon.
$3 a
How do
gallon.
you
It's
use
worth
that
it.
to buy Galaxy
It's
hops?
worth it.
All right, I get that.
All right,
Fair
so
enough.
what about the hop schedule?
So our hop schedule for this beer specifically. So the main 2 hops are Euconaut and Amarillo. They equal out to 60% of the hop regimen and everything. We do. I'm not going to do all the math, but we do essentially about 35 to 40 IBUs of Euconaut and Amarillo 50-50 blend for the first wort. And then we don't touch that wort other than doing like kettle finings. We do servo for yeast nutrient.
Whirlpool?
Yeah, so we go to Whirlpool next up. We also do cane sugar as well, which
Sick.
is one thing that people usually don't think about because they want that soft mouthfeel. Like, you're going to need some
You do
damn
cane
ferment-
sugar?
We do dextrose or turbinado. So I like turbinado more. I like cane sugar more.
It's a lot more fun.
Only
to say.
because it's just a personal preference. There's literally no difference. There's not going to be any
Okay.
flavor differential. It's all.
So it sounds like
say
about
it.
40 IBUs or so is going to be your first wort hop, and the rest is just.
Let's call it 35, and I think there's going to be about 15 to 20. Catch it. At the Whirlpool, because there's been no hop particulate or anything like that, any kind of alpha acids being involved in the isomerization process through the boil. I think the fact that we're not adding anything until Whirlpool is going to increase the efficiency of the isomerization. I think we end up hitting about 78 to 85 IBUs actually. What? Yeah.
Really? I would not have guessed that.
The first time I got it tested, it came back
all
at
that's from Whirlpool?
113 actually. The last time we tested, the lowest I've ever tested at was 89 IBUs.
This beer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's
doesn't taste like that at all.
Where are your IBUs coming from? Because I thought you said you had about 40 IBUs in the first wort.
Whirlpool, and then the hop stand.
Okay, this must be a commercial brewery thing.
Well,
No,
it's a brewing
So
software
40
thing.
IBUs is
It's a
just
brewing
your-
software thing, and that's one of the things we should have touched on earlier.
I firmly believe that brewing software is false, and don't believe.
Well,
it
that's
ever.
Yep.
one of the things we meant to touch on earlier, and we didn't. Is that brewing or Beersmith 3 is coming out soon, and one of the things it's got is Whirlpool hop calculation, because that Whirlpool doesn't calculate correctly in the
But
current
you guys
software.
are getting half your IBUs from Whirlpool.
Oh, we're actually getting like
yeah. That makes
probably
a lot of
No,
sense.
more.
are you testing your IBU? Are you sending
we
it
sent it
off?
off to a lab. Yeah.
Fuck.
Well, we're
You guys are right. God damn it.
We're hitting the lowest I've ever hit on anything has been 74 IBUs, and that was like a bullshit beer.
How does that? I'm sorry. but how
What
does
beer
your
was
beer
that?
have that much IBU. It doesn't even come
Well,
close
so
to
and I
tasting
think
that
that
way.
goes to what the
How long
conversation's
is your
going.
Whirlpool?
Usually lasts for about 45 minutes.
And that's above 180.
That'll do it.
So we do a whirlpool. No. So we do a whirlpool at just under boiling, obviously, of like 10 minutes, enough for me to take a sample, figure out how much we were over. Then I got installed.
Do you take a Homer bucket? That's a good
No,
sample.
I actually specifically got a water line installed into my kettle so that I hate not hitting gravity ever.
Oh, I agree.
Not hitting gravity is the most ridiculous feeling for me. Like, I just want to dump the fucking beer.
Well, you're making a different beer.
What is your if you're plus? What's your plus or minus where you're happy?
100%.
So if you're not on the money, you're mad.
I dump the beer. That being said, we've never dumped a beer, but we always hit the gravity. And I had a water line piped in specifically to the brew kettle
to check it.
To check it and then dilute
and then
it.
to add it when you're over. Right.
I've got to say, you remind me exactly of a deep water scientist I know.
A what?
Deep water scientist.
That's not real.
She spends
That's
most
what
of
my
her
wife
time
calls
doing
me.
pipette
Is she single?
tests.
Is she hot? Go on.
Yes
hot.
and yes.
Deep.
Deep water science? My kind of gal.
Biscuits.
I'll send her some of your beer and
Far right.
let you know what she
biscuits
says.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. But no, so overall,
Alert.
Jeremy was a lot closer. What yeast did he use? Did he say?
Use the Omega
DIPA?
DIPA. Yeah, I was gonna try to originally blend the London Ale 3 and 1272, the American Ale 2.
I love 1270 American too.
Yep.
From YE.
But
It's my favorite Ale strain.
yeah,
also a
but
low
the
flock, I think.
London Ale was completely sold
Medium
out.
to high.
I took it. I
Yeah,
took
it's
the
medium
last
high.
one.
Yeah,
I know that strain very well. It's medium to
Oh,
high.
great.
You don't have to
Medium
flip
high.
your shit on that one.
And you guys,
drops out real
we've
fast.
talked about that here. That like the London Ale 3 now is on par in sales with 1056.
Wow.
I'm not lying to you. It sells as
You gotta
much
stock
as
it.
Yeah.
and I mean that was and I'll be honest with you. A couple of years ago, London Ale 3 we would throw out. I mean, it would never sell. It was just a couple of years ago. We would toss it out. It would never sell. And it's funny how that one strain has just now become, the bee's
That's
knees
crazy.
or whatever.
I've been using
you know?
that strain for years. That's my
Yeah.
favorite stout strain. I think
Really?
it's the damn best stout strain. ESB strain, any kind of like English bitter, it's fantastic. That or Ringwood, either one, they're great. I think they're.
See, and
pretty much-
I'm not a Ringwood fan at all.
You like
And
the
the only
same
reason I say
strain
that-
for your bitters as you
Ringwood's
do for your
pretty good.
stouts?
yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not a fan for the
Fermentation temperature
Ringwood.
and
You have to work
water.
the Ringwood.
Ringwood
That's
is
the
a
main thing with
freaking
that one. You
butter,
really have to work with it.
butter producing mofo.
But
work the
it's one of
Ringwood.
those. It's one of those yeast that if you manipulate it correctly and you utilize it well, it's going to pay off huge
produces.
dividends.
Stroke it just right.
Got to.
You gotta do it.
There's one other thing that I wanted to hit on before we get even further down the
Before
rabbit
you hit
hole.
on that, I just want to say that I like how Jeremy's recipe. He said, "Hit with 2 ounces of Galaxy."
Because he also hit that
Hit it.
dab and then
But
handed
with-
it to
dude,
him.
But
I
with
love-
Bedford water.
After
wait,
that, did you quit it?
So wait,
Yeah.
can
Oh,
me
wait.
and JP
No one does
vote
that
on our
here.
favorite ones? Can we do that?
Yeah, we'd like to know what your favorite ones are.
Yeah. JP, go for it. What do you got?
Man, I really like Jeremy's.
Okay. Even though it was really bitter,
Yeah. I thought
And
the body and
it was soapy.
no, I
He's
I
really
just-
leading you to a
Stubby's
direction.
Stubby's trying to talk you out of your
Throw it
opinion.
down.
No. No, I thought Jeremy
I'm
nailed
just
it.
giving you shit,
Jeremy nailed with the full body. Had a little bit of bitterness, lingering bitterness to it, but other than that, it was very drinkable. All of them were good.
There wasn't
It
a
just-
bad one out of the bunch.
No, not at all, which is surprising. And
What about
Which is
you, Alex? What was
surprising.
your
no,
favorite?
I thought when it comes to this stuff, and even
Right.
professionals throw out New England style IPAs, and that's more of a money grab for them.
Yeah.
Y'all's haze stayed. So
And it was the first time y'all did it.
and it's the first time you guys have done it. You're
First
not
of all-
familiar, and
Fuck y'all.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go ahead and do that.
Shit.
It
What
really
are we
was.
doing?
I've brewed like
had
400
help.
batches of this shit, and
Well, you guys help. No. When we
No,
talk to you
no,
guys,
no.
you guys.
We
gave
brought
us
in our
insight.
ringers.
it,
is what
does,
we
it doesn't
did.
matter that like the three of y'all are great brewers.
Yeah.
And there's a specific tradition of brewing that you usually follow these guidelines. It's different beer, but you do that, and this is a little bit different wrench in the oven.
Well, see, what we
And,
did is we flew
that's
in the
really
nerds. Is what we did. We were like
They were so psyched for this.
Who are our
Mike,
ringers?
Mike was so
I was
psyched
so
for
IPA
this.
Mike,
was
Sean, and
4.65.
Jeremy. Yeah. Who can we count on to
The
bring
first
it?
30 minutes where we got
Yeah.
here, me, Mike, and Sean were just talking pH for like half an hour. And
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
So
There you go.
sexy.
whenever me and JP stepped outside, JP goes, "You gotta chill out with the nerd shit. We're about to be in front of people. They're nerds too. They get it. It's
Yeah,
great."
it's just
Yeah.
nerdy.
They were
So-
so psyched for this, man.
So for
Yeah.
me, I
It's a lot of
think
fun.
the best malt content was Jeremy's.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
I
well,
agree.
you're on malt content.
Like
Well, it just had a good
had the-
malt bill.
More
The-
character to it.
absolutely the best hop content was the lactic acid from Mike's.
Yeah.
I agree.
But I think the overall best was Sean's.
I thought the overall best was Sean's.
I think
Yeah.
the mouthfeel of it was perfect. It didn't quite have the distinct malt persona that like Jeremy said, but it was still very good. And that's why I wouldn't really rate any of them other than they were all really good. I would drink the living hell out of them. If you have more bottles here, I will definitely steal those and drink them so I don't have to drink my own beer all the time. But no, they all three were really awesome, and it
Yeah,
was
I
such an
think so.
honor to
Yeah.
have you guys clone one of our bullshit beers after being around for 2 months. Like that's really fucking rad. Like I'm sorry for me. I think it's awesome because I've seen you guys do the ones with RAR and guys that have been around forever. It's like
No, but
Yeah, man, you're setting standards, brother.
you want to do this?
Too much.
You're setting standards, though. You're setting standards. That's
Cool.
the main thing.
you guys.
I mean, you didn't go after the Mexican lager like we were hoping for, but it was still it's truly an honor, especially learning to brew from Stubby and all the
Yeah.
folks here at Stubby's. It's
Yeah, you guys are far
we love you
past
guys
me,
very
man.
much and respect the shit out of you.
No, I'm ecstatic that you guys are in business because this New England style IPA thing is new and it's up and coming, and we've seen too many breweries put out a hazy IPA, and it tastes just like what the fuck. This is an IPA, and for someone to come in town and open up and actually have and get it, like you said earlier, it's not about brewing a hazy beer. There's aspects to it that you have to get.
Right.
You have
Yes.
to understand the style to get it. And we were in New York a few months ago, and there was a brewery there that specialized in nothing but New England style IPAs, and they got it. And they're
It's other half.
the other half. Yeah,
They're so good. They're so good. They are so good.
But no, there are other breweries that have the same thing, and there's something special about that style, and it's so awesome that a brewery has. It's so exciting that a brewery is open locally that does it just as good. That's awesome.
No,
that-
I'm with you on that, Mike. I really am because like I said, I've really dedicated myself to trying to try every example I can in different parts of the country and decide what I think about this style, and the decision I've come to is that I love it. And
Yeah.
and
So
then the other decision I've come to is, wow, you guys are knocking it out of the park.
You are.
thank
Yeah.
You really are.
Thank you.
Well,
I just love your beers, all of them.
and that's one of
Your emphasis is strong. So.
Can't get a word yet.
Well, you're
Do it now. Go.
definitely drunk.
All right. Well, one of the things
I do
that,
it. Can I have one quick
Yeah, sure.
story
Yeah,
release
you bet.
that?
Come on.
So, the last place that I worked at, Sean and Mike bought me Jimmy John's, and I just want to officially say thank you for the first time in 4 years now.
Oh shit! I was there for that.
Yeah, you bought me
It was
and
delicious.
JP Jimmy John's.
We did.
and it was really good. And Commander Riker
Oh,
was
yeah.
the only, outside of the Roggen beer we had tonight, actually, not fake news, was the first rye beer that I actually enjoyed.
Thank you.
And
Oh, yeah,
last
thank
up
you.
until tonight, actually.
Yeah.
I thought it was very ceremonial. I thought that was perfect.
but one of the
that's so
things I was
funny.
going
I
to
do know
say,
that.
one of the things I was going to say though is that
It was the best Jimmy John's ever.
Delicious.
But did they get
Union-
you hot pepper?
Oh, Jeremy's still
Of
there.
course they-
Holy crap!
Jeremy, your wife is mad at you. Just go home.
Jeremy's the
Stubby's
real
mad at you.
MVP.
You're
I know.
fired. I hope you know that.
He's the real
Love
MVP.
you
We're
guys.
also never going to be invited back here.
Jeremy.
Hey guys, I'm gonna come up to the brewery and have a beer with you
No,
guys
I was just
soon.
going to say that.
Tonight?
Yeah.
Stubby wants to say something.
God damn, I was trying to make a fucking compliment, but I can't get
It's been a
fucking
good
word
night.
in.
I can't take a compliment. From
No, but no.
Try an
One of the
insult.
things that I was going to say that it is, I got to be real honest with you. There's a lot of the ones that I've tried over the last year or two, and not. I got to say I'm not a huge fan, but I would say that the best examples of the styles that I've had so far, you guys are doing as good as anybody else out there, and I really enjoy your beer. So. That's just a big thumbs up for me, man, because I tried all of those different ones and at CBC, and I don't think any of them compare to what you guys are putting out right now. So, cheers.
That means a lot, man.
Yeah,
Thank you very much,
cheers.
Debbie.
Thank
Seriously,
you.
that honestly, out of all the compliments we got, that probably means the most from all of us. Just because if
Instead
it wasn't
of
for
us,
you,
the
we
big
wouldn't be
heads.
here, brother.
Wow, cheers,
And
man. Thanks, man. That's awesome.
You've
to
had
hear.
the best beer around the world 10,000 times around. And that means a lot, brother.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers, man. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Here.
All right.
Love y'all.
So,
All
anyway.
right, so we have one thing that we
announcement.
want them to
Yes.
read for us is the weekly listen and win giveaway phrase because it's suited just to them. So guys, read it however you need to.
I'll let JP read it, but it is the beer that we released this weekend. We release it about once a month, our milkshake IPA, and Greg's yours was great. I really liked it. We should do a collab and
Hey,
call it like
thanks.
Stubby Hates These Beers. Let's do it.
Jeremy's going.
That's
Bye,
perfect.
Jeremy. Love you.
Bye.
That or your wife's calling. Pick
got a
it
call
up.
coming in,
And call and answer. But JP's going to read it.
Get
It's
off the
from
phone and get in here, dude.
our milkshake IPA called
Use it just right.
Shake Zula from one of the greatest animated sitcoms of all time called Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
Greatest setup ever. Oh, so,
Pressure's on, dude.
Shake Zula, the Mike Rula, the old schooler.
You need a drink?
You want a trip? I'll bring it to you.
That's all you have
Meat
to write
Wad's
down.
got the money, see? Meat Wad's
got
brings
the
the honey,
honey,
see?
You can
We're
write all of it
huge
down.
fans of all the stupid shows on Adult Swim.
Yeah.
And the fact that we were doing a milkshake and Master
man,
Shake wasn't going to be involved, give me a damn break.
You got to get JOE in here to rap for you.
Yeah, I don't want to be
Shake
sued
Zula,
by
the Mike
him
Rula.
because they literally have the record for the most changed name of the show ever.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just so he couldn't sue them, which makes me love that show even more.
There you go.
But Aqua Teen Hunger Force is one of the greatest shows of all time. Watch it and drink our beer while doing it, and it will probably make it funnier too.
Absolutely.
You have to listen to the Danger Doom album. Gotta say
Oh,
that.
you have to.
And then Metalocalypse right after that. Do that.
So one of the things we also want to mention here is that we were going to have Josh Noel on tonight. That
Thank
was
God
that was
we
going.
didn't have him
Yeah,
on
thank God we didn't have time for him. But we are going to have him on in the next episode to talk about the book that he wrote regarding the Goose Island buyout.
Yeah, what was it? Bourbon County Stouts and
Bourbon,
Sellouts?
barrel aged stout, and
Sellouts.
something along
Yeah,
those lines.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm up to I'm up to chapter 4 in it. So
Oh, you already got the book?
I got it online today.
Oh,
It was released today.
He's been pooping a lot, so he's had a lot of chance to read it. And
I thought you guys said you're going to have a translator here.
Yeah.
Sorry, Nigel. One joke.
No,
One joke. I had
no.
one.
No, it's funny you should say that. And because of I'm being the translator, here is the phrase that pays in a translatable
I
style.
like it.
Shake Zula, the Mike Ruler, the old schooler. You want a trip? I'll bring it to you.
Amen.
Nigel, you're my goddamn favorite.
Oh,
I
that
don't care
was
what anybody
fantastic.
says about you anymore. I'm out.
I mean, I had something else, but I kind of forgot about it at that point.
you know,
Oh, my goodness.
That made
you
my
got
damn night.
No, that
Thank
was
you, Nigel.
that was fantastic.
And
Ti-
thank
they-
you for taking the jokes with some.
they say timing
with
is
some-
everything, and that the timing on that was absolutely perfect.
He
Yeah, it
will
was
bring it
perfect.
to you.
Hey, and just
Promise.
Just one more thing before we go out of here. Remember Hayes Bros for 20% off of Omega Lab, Yeast Lab DIPA, the Flaked Wheat and the Flaked Oats. It's a one-time use coupon code, but get it soon because it's only good for 90 days. So,
Stubby, can I use that on 20 barrels? Is
no.
that fine? Okay.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
a $9,000 order. Can I get 20% off?
Sure,
on
but
that,
not
please?
at brewery prices.
off
No,
retail,
no, okay,
yeah.
fair enough. Shit. Well, I have the code though. You said
There you
that
go.
use the code.
Anyway,
Let me know how that works out for you.
Before we get into closing.
Anyway, listen in and win patron phrase. Oh, you said that one, all right? The Shake Zula?
He said it exactly.
The Mike Rula, the old school.
Old school.
I'll bring it to you.
I'll bring it to you.
Okay. But anyway,
before we get into the formal closing, I just want to give a shout out to Jake's Draft in Houston, Platypus Brewing, and Texas Beer Refinery for the crawlers they got.
Yeah. We actually had some really nice beers from them tonight. I enjoyed all of
so
those.
thanks
Very
a
good.
lot for that, man.
Something to share
No doubt
around.
about it.
Can
Awesome.
I do a
Really
shout
nice
out
to
to
bring
you
up.
just really fast?
Sure.
Alicia Keys, if you're listening, I love you so much. I know you're
Never
married, but
say
if you
yes.
ever are like questioning, I'm there for you. That's all I got. I love you so much. You are on fire, girl.
I'm not gonna lie.
That's it.
Nobody saw that coming.
She's probably listening.
Yeah.
Like I said, if
Huge
she
supporter.
Her and Rihanna are both big fans of the
I'm
show.
in a lot of debt, but I do own a business, sort of. The bank owns a business that I run.
Yes, exactly.
Rihanna's not so more. Not so anymore.
Oh, I can't do that. I can't. She's way too hardcore.
We lost
Whole
Rihanna.
different podcast.
Anyway.
All right.
Wow.
All right.
Well,
Sorry.
Shake Zula.
Thank you. Never
So-
have us back.
The
Or do
Mike
it
Rula.
Okay, so anyway, future episodes we'll have an interview with the author of Barrel Aged Stout and Selling Out. We'll have the guys from the Collective back in studio to talk about fruit additions and the wood aging. And oh my God, there's going to be a bazillion freaking wood jokes, I'm sure. And we'll yeah,
Can we come back for that, actually?
you bet.
From you're the biggest offender.
I know. And we'll hopefully be seeing some of you at HomebrewCon in Portland. If you're going, be
Watch for the
sure to
capes.
watch for Come and Brew It Radio logo. Come to talk to us, and maybe we'll even have a surprise for you.
Love you, Stubby.
It's
Thank
capes.
you.
The surprise is capes.
Brandon will have a surprise for you.
Again, please be sure to check out our Patreon account at patreon.com/Come and Brew It Radio to help support the show. We have the $2, $5, $10, and $20 options because every little bit counts because it costs a lot of money to keep these guys in beer. Anyway, plus we want to reward you to help to keep the show going, get involved, and improve it. And in fact, we literally reward a lucky Patreon listener each and every show and have a random drawing from the names of our $5, $10, $20 patrons for a prize at the end of every month. Just, you have to be a patron. Thanks again for listening to Come and Brew It Radio.
Say it.
Be sure to share with your friends on social media. Give us some ratings on iTunes and Stitcher, and send any comments to info@texasbrewinginc.com. Also, you can always check in on the brew days at the guys on the Brew Focus Facebook pages at Brew with Stubby, at Brew with Brando, at Brew with Mikey B, at Brew with Chris, at Brew with Greg, and at Brew with Nigel. And
Hey,
until
Stubby, will you do the phrase?
yeah,
please?
what's that? Which one?
The phrase.
Shake
Which
Zula.
phrase? The phrase? The
Yeah.
the
No, read it like
Shake
really good.
Zula.
No,
The
that's
Mike
right.
Rula.
Shake. It's shake.
Shake. Okay. Shake Zula. The Mike Rula. The old schooler. You want a trip? I'll bring it to you. Is that good enough?
Come and brew. I'm gonna need that. Like mark that. Mark that. I'm gonna need that.
All right, guys. Until next time, come and
Brew
brew
it.
it.
Come and brew. Number one in the hood, G.
She gave me top in the parking lot, then make it drop on my lollipop. We popping bombers on monobrows. We going hard, spinning slapping cars, beating the beat up and leaving scars. Then chugging the brew in the Uber car. Grab beer in my hand, pussy in my lap. I used to sip the 40, but I got up out the track. Rap chill in my hand, pussy in my lap. I used to sip the 40, but I got up out the track. Brewed up, I'm brewed up, I'm brewed up, I'm brewed up, I'm brewed up.
Or if the regular host.
It's hard for me. It's not hard for me.